The next speaker is Deputy Mary Lou McDonald.
The Moriarty report, the travails of the tribunal, the various legal challenges, and some of the really acidic invective directed in particular against Mr. Justice Moriarty, I think confirm for the public mind in a very depressing way once again the unhealthy and the corrupting relationship between politics and at least some big business. People's worst suspicions have been confirmed once again that there is that unhealthy insiders, boys' club version of politics that runs its writ in this state. Deputy Michael Lowry says he's innocent of any wrongdoing, and Deputy Lowry is, of course, entitled to defend his good name and reputation. He's equally entitled to challenge the tribunal and its findings. But yesterday, Deputy Lowry was allowed, with the indulgence of this House, a full hour to launch invective and abuse, not alone on the tribunal and its process, but in a very personalised way on Mr. Justice Moriarty. And rather than coming to this House as a member of it to give an account of himself, to challenge any factual errors, to present an alternative case, Mr. Lowry chose rather to heap abuse and invective in the course of that hour. Now, the tribunal was established by the Oireachtas under terms agreed in this House. The tribunal has done its work and it has come back with its findings. And it is incumbent on this House not alone to accept those findings, but equally then to follow the logic of that acceptance. And it's for that reason that Sinn Féin has tabled a motion of censure on Deputy Michael Lowry. We believe that this should be a cross-party motion. We believe that the government must make time for that motion. We believe it is absolutely essential, outside of this rarefied environment, that the electorate, that the people see very clearly that when findings of such a serious nature are brought back to this House in respect of a member of this Dáil, that the Dáil will act, even if the actions available to the House are woefully inadequate. So I think it is a matter of absolute urgency that the Taoiseach make good his commitment from this morning and allow for this motion to be taken, and ideally that it would be a cross-party motion. Understandably, the vast bulk of media and political attention generated by Moriarty has focused on Deputy Lowry, but there are wider considerations. The Deputy was a key minister of the Rainbow government. The current Taoiseach was a member of that government too, as were Richard Bruton, Brendan Howlin, Rory Quinn, Michael Noonan, all of whom are now back in Cabinet. The decision to award the licence was a major one. It proved extremely lucrative, and to that extent, those who were members of the Cabinet at that time need to examine their own role and answer for their own role in accepting Michael Lowry's recommendations. Rory Quinn, the deputy opposite, the then Minister for Finance, was member of the Cabinet Subcommittee on Communications, which had prime responsibility for the licensing approval. According to Moriarty, Michael Lowry, as Minister for Telecommunications, sought a meeting with the members of that subcommittee in October 1995. The object of that meeting on Deputy Lowry's part was to seek the support of Taoiseach John Bruton, Labour Party leader, and Taoiseach Dick Spring, and the subcommittee members for his proposal to begin exclusive negotiations with ESAT regarding the GSM licences. The Moriarty report states that the party leaders and Mr. Quinn collectively approved the recommendation made by Mr. Lowry that exclusive negotiations should be opened with ESAT Digiphone. All of those who were there at the time later claimed that Deputy Lowry had told them that ESAT had proven to be the only plausible applicant. In light of what we now know, that was, to say the least of it, a very contentious verdict to arrive at. In fairness to those other ministers who gave their assent in 1995, they were clearly led to believe that there were no outstanding issues to be examined or resolved. The Moriarty report suggests that the documentation which Deputy Lowry used to persuade his then colleagues of the virtues of the ESAT case were not perhaps what they seemed at the time. Now, nobody is suggesting, and I'm certainly not suggesting, that there was any hint of impropriety on the part of any other minister in that government. But they ought, nonetheless, to hold their hands up and accept that they were perhaps at least somewhat negligent in giving their approval, particularly given the huge value of the licence to the winner. Another issue that touches upon the current government is the role of the current Minister for the Environment, Deputy Phil Hogan. Minister Hogan was a key member of the group responsible for organising fundraising on behalf of the Fine Gael party. In that capacity, he was the conduit for several substantial donations from Denis O'Brien. Mark Fitzgerald was also one of those involved in party fundraising, and he recalls that shortly after one fundraising event in October '95, and shortly after that he met with Minister Hogan and Denis O'Brien at a meeting initiated by Denis O'Brien. The transcript of the tribunal hearing from the 6th of December 2002 contains the following report of Mr Fitzgerald's evidence. Mr Fitzgerald, it says, has informed the tribunal that Mr O'Brien asked to meet with him for coffee at a restaurant close to Mr Fitzgerald's office. Fitzgerald assumed that this might relate to a business matter about which he had shortly before spoken to Mr O'Brien. Fitzgerald has informed the tribunal that he was surprised when he arrived to find Mr O'Brien sitting at a table with Mr Phil Hogan and the late Jim Mitchell. As he sat down, Mr Fitzgerald has informed the tribunal that Mr O'Brien asked him if he had heard any news on the licence. If that meeting did take place, then there are serious questions to be asked and responded to by all of those who were present, including Minister Hogan. Here, according to Mr Fitzgerald and Moriarty, we had a situation in which a person who had donated significant sums of money to one of the government parties was meeting with a government TD and seeking to find out about a licence application that was potentially, and indeed proved to be, of immense value to Mr O'Brien. This is something that surely warrants further attention, further clarification from Minister Hogan, given, as I understand it, that he claims to have no recollection of that meeting ever taking place. Fine Gael is now committed to ending corporate donations, and we very much hope that that proves to be the case. But just as they themselves demanded full explanations from Fianna Fáil regarding that party's relationship with corporate donors and favours that may or may not have been asked or performed, equally, Fine Gael needs to come clean on this aspect of its past. Indeed, it would appear from the reports of the large sums collected by Fine Gael in the context of their most recent election campaign that we are not simply talking about the past. We are talking about close links between Fine Gael and big business that reach right up and into the present. We know that some of those who contributed to Fine Gael coffers recently have included property developers who are now under the auspices of NAMA and the EBS, which of course had to be bailed out by the taxpayer. Given what we now know about favours sought and granted on the basis of similar donations from similar sources in the past, Fine Gael needs to show that it has decisively turned its back on the seedy culture of financial ties between big business and politics. It needs to move rapidly to end corporate donations and to ensure that any legislation provides for full disclosure of all donations. As part of being clear about its past, Fine Gael should publish a full list of all corporate and business donations which it received as part of its fundraising for the general election campaign just gone. I think that in and of itself would go a long way to restoring the trust of the people and of this House in its elected representatives following the revelations of this report.